I usually wouldn't do a response to somebody else's YouTube video, but on this one, I felt a need to, because there's also some principles in here that I have spoken about quite a bit. And I think that there's some principles that are very helpful for people, but also it gives an opportunity to ask or to answer a question that people have asked me after my own conversion to Orthodox Christianity. And so I'm responding to a video that Jonathan Pageau just put out, where he has a conversation. It's also him involved, but it's mostly a conversation. In some ways, it's almost structured almost as like an apologetics debate with Jordan Hall and John Vervaeke. Jordan Hall, who has just, I don't know if he's converted, he's moving towards Christianity. I have a very difficult time listening to him for longer than about 15 minutes. But I got the gist of what was going on within the first 15 minutes of listening to this conversation that they had, and to know that it was going to go off the rails in a way. And this is what I'll explain to you why. So the idea of the debate, or the theme of the debate, and the title of the video is Why Christianity? And the idea here is that John Vervaeke is not a Christian. As I recall, he's a Buddhist of sorts, and I know that he and Jonathan Pageau are working together on some symbolic world stuff, where Vervaeke is talking about like the psychological aspects or the cognitive science aspects of ritual, which is of course a giant thing for the Orthodox, but he's going to bring it in terms of Buddhism, and I think that there's a little of like a universalist aspect, I guess ecumenist if you're going to bring in Jordan Hall, because I do not think he has converted to Orthodoxy, and I will tell you why. Jonathan has Jordan set up as the apologist for why Christianity. If you're going to, John Vervaeke is asking the question of, well, why does it need to be Christianity? Why? It's a universalist question, right? Why not Buddhism? Why not Taoism? What is in Christianity that is not in these other, let's say, Eastern or whatever, faiths, religions, whatever you want to call them? And Jordan Hall starts out, he begins by saying, please forgive me because this may get abstract. And it's at that moment that you know, if somebody says that you know that what you're about to have described to you is not Christianity. They might be describing a Christian heresy, like Gnosticism, but if they say this is about to get abstract, and they start with the abstract, you know they're not describing Christianity. Why do I say that? Because the hallmark of Christianity is that it is incarnational. This is the entire idea. God condescended in the flesh, became man. Incarnational means in the flesh, which is the exact opposite of abstract. The exact opposite. And everything about the gospel is incarnational. And everything about the church is incarnational, in the flesh. It's happening in the flesh. Every single one of the sacraments is incarnational. It happens in the flesh. The way that the churches are laid out, it's incarnational. It happens in the flesh. The entire ministry of Christ is incarnational. All of the things with the saints, martyrdom itself, the martyrs and the confessors, it's in the flesh. And at times, literally the tearing of the flesh. Asceticism is the mortification of the flesh. It's in the flesh. It is not abstract. And the answer to why Christianity, and this is, I'm speaking from my own sort of personal experience, my own catechism, my own interactions with my spiritual father and other priests. And the holy apostles had this themselves. There's a very important document. Whether you're a Christian or not, it's important to read it because it's basically like the first catechetical document. It's accepted by the church as the catechetical document. In other words, the teaching document that the apostles used for their catechism of new Christians. And it's called the Didache. D-I-D-A-C-H-E, and it is accepted as being from the 1st century, and it begins with the sentence that says, there are two ways, the way of life and the way of death, but a great difference between the two. And it goes on to basically say, why Christianity? Because Christianity is the way of life, and all other ways are the way of death. And so if what you want is life, but not just life, life eternal, then there is one way to follow, and here, let us show you what it is. And that is the reason why Christianity has stuck around, is because that statement has actually turned out in history to be true. And I'll explain to you why. It is incarnational, it is not abstract. In your life, every day, you are confronted with problems, challenges, things that you need to do. Given any single challenge or any goal, right? You just want to get from point A to point B, okay? There are basically, in terms of the set of behaviors that you can take, right? It's basically infinite. You need to get from point A to point B. Well, you could turn around and go the other way. You could sit down. You could decide to cry. You could jump up and down, right? You could slap yourself in the head. There's almost an infinite number of things that you could do that will not get you from point A to point B. In other words, we would call those the wrong things. This is not abstract. This is just real, right? Everything I've described is incarnational. The set of activities that you would take to get you from point A to point B, where you actually get to point B, that set, in other words, the instructions, the directions, is very, very limited. Imagine your Google Maps GPS. Again, not abstract, incarnational. You say, I want to get from point A to point B. And it says, calculating fastest route. Now, there might be a few different routes. And if you go off one way, it'll say recalculating. And it'll find you the route from that point, right? But it still is a limited set. And the fastest route, in other words, the one that gets you there, because it's not just about getting there, right? You want to get there the most efficiently. The one that gets you there the best, in other words, that there is one best route. And I think even on Google Maps it says calculating or determining best route or something like that. So notice there is one best route. There's an unlimited number of routes that are wrong. There's a small group of routes that will get you there, but they're not the best. And there is one best route. That's the way of life. This is incarnational. There is one best way to do basically anything. And how do you know what the best way is? Well, when people have done it over and over and over again, and it works better than anything else, then there's your best way. What are the other ways that you know about it is, that you know, and Christianity is specific, and it's in its incarnational aspect, is unlike all of these other religions or whatever, Christianity has this interesting aspect of the anti-fragile in it, which is about Christ's execution on the cross by the Jews and the Romans, going down into hell, releasing the dead from hell, and rising again. This is a Paschal hymn. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, destroying death by his own death, and to those in the tombs bestowing life. That's like the ultimate. And if you read the lives of the saints, one of the things that you see, this anti-fragile nature, is that straight out of as Christ himself said in the Beatitudes, right? Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. So the martyrs, the witnesses, martyr means witness, the martyrs, you see so many stories of the emperor or whatever is going to persecute them, takes them, starts torturing them, or executes them, but people seeing the way that they respond in their witness of Christ, sometimes even thanking the emperor for allowing them to suffer for Christ, that actually converts the people. Sometimes it converts the emperor himself, or the consul, or the leader himself. So think about that for a second. You go to persecute this thing, and you get converted by your persecution of it. How powerful is that thing? There are no other, because martyrdom in Islam is not that. It doesn't have that effect. But over and over and over again, Christianity has that effect, and you can't find another. This is not abstract. This is incarnational that anyone can understand. It's seen through history. And so I have this feeling that Jordan Hall and John Vervaeke and Jonathan Pageau, it looks like they're going to do this thing, and I know that they will, because with those three guys, you can fill up 3 hours with basically people talking and saying things that sound very nice, But if I urge you to really listen to what's being said, and you'll note that basically nothing of meaning is being said. Christianity is incarnational. It happens in the real. Christ is present in the real world. Real historic things happen that is different than anything else, and we acknowledge that this is the one way. This is the truth. This is the best way. This is the optimum route on the Google Maps in the real world, not in the abstract. So that's what I wanted to say. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you stay vigilant about what it appears may be on the horizon of a whole new kind of weird Gnosticism. All right, see you next time.